the world of business, trust is pretty much everything. But let's be real. When you're looking at a company's financial report, how do you actually know it's the real deal and not just a well-written piece of fiction? Well, that's where the corporate watchdog comes in, the auditor. Today, we're going to break down their absolutely crucial role, all laid out by India's Companies Act.
I mean, it's the big question, isn't it? For any investor, any employee, heck, any partner. Is what I'm seeing real? Are these profits, these assets, actually what the company says they are? The law has a very specific answer to that, and it all boils down to one key player.
And that player is the auditor. Now, see that word on the screen? Independent? That word is everything. You got to think of them as an impartial referee. They don't work for management. They're not there to make the CEO happy. Their job is to serve the integrity of the numbers, and they're empowered by the Companies Act to give an honest, unbiased opinion on a company's true financial health.
So, how does this all-important relationship even begin? Well, it's not some simple handshake deal over lunch. Nope. The law lays out a very specific playbook, all designed to build that integrity and independence right into the system from day one.
So the standard gig for an auditor is a 5-year term. That's long enough for them to really get to know the business inside and out. It officially runs from the end of one big annual shareholder meeting, the AGM, all the way to the end of the 6th one. But here's the thing. Just because they can stay for 5 years doesn't mean they can stay forever.
And here's the catch. It's called compulsory rotation. The whole point is to stop auditors and management from getting a little too cozy. So as you can see, if you're an individual auditor, you get one 5-year term, and that's it. If you're part of a bigger audit firm, you can do 2 5-year terms back to back, so 10 years total. But after that, time's up, you're out.
And they have to stay out for a while. This is what's known as the cooling off period. For 5 full years after their term is up, that same auditor or firm is not allowed to be reappointed. The idea is simple. Break any old habits, sever any deep relationships, and make sure the company gets a fresh pair of eyes on its books.
But wait, does every single company have to do this? Nope. The law really targets the bigger fish. Take a look at these numbers. For an unlisted public company, the rule kicks in if they have a paid-up share capital of 10 crore rupees or more. For a private company, that number jumps to 50 crore. The main takeaway here is, if a company is big enough, either through its capital or its public borrowings, to have a major impact, then yeah, it absolutely has to follow these strict rotation rules.
All right, so they've got the job. Now what? What do they actually do? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The law doesn't just give them a fancy title, it gives them some serious powers and some incredibly heavy duties.
And when we say they have power, we mean it. An auditor can waltz in and look at any financial record anytime they want. They have the right to demand answers from any officer in the company. Their reach even extends to all the subsidiary companies. And their job isn't just about checking the math at the end of the year, it's about making sure the company has the right systems in place to prevent mistakes or fraud from happening in the first place.
But you know, out of all these powers, there is one duty that stands above everything else. It is non-negotiable. If an auditor even suspects that fraud has been committed against the company by its own employees or officers, they are legally required to report it, not to the CEO, but directly to the central government. This isn't a choice, it is an absolute mandate.
And you better believe there is a very specific, by-the-book procedure for this. First, the auditor flags their suspicion to the company's board or its audit committee. The company then gets 45 days to investigate and respond. But here's the key part. Whether the company replies or not, after those 45 days, the auditor has just 15 more days to forward everything, their original report, the company's response, and their own final comments straight to the central government. It's a ticking clock that can't be stopped. Now, to keep that all-important independence pure, there's a whole laundry list of things an auditor is strictly forbidden from doing for a company they audit. They can't do the company's bookkeeping, they can't act as its internal auditor, they can't give investment advice, you get the picture. I mean, it's pretty simple, really. You can't be the one auditing your own work. It's a massive conflict of interest.
Okay, so what if things go south? What if the relationship doesn't last the full 5 years? Well, there are 2 ways out. The company can try to remove the auditor, or the auditor can resign. And yeah, both paths are very tightly controlled.
So a company can't just wake up one day and fire its auditor. It's not like firing any other contractor.
If they want to get rid of an auditor before their term is up, they first have to get a green light from the central government. This is a huge protection, designed to stop companies from sacking auditors who are maybe asking too many tough questions.
And the process to actually do it? It's tough. And that's on purpose. First, the board of directors has to pass a resolution. Then they have to send a formal application to the government. And only if, and that's a big if, the government approves it, can the company then hold a special vote with its shareholders. Every single step is a hurdle designed to make sure firing an auditor is a serious, transparent, and absolutely necessary decision.
So what if the auditor is the one who wants to leave? Well, they can't just pack their bags and disappear silently. If an auditor resigns, they are legally required to file an official statement within 30 days explaining exactly why they're leaving. This stops an auditor from quietly backing out just because they've uncovered a huge mess they don't want to deal with.
All right, so we've got all these rules, but what happens if someone breaks them? Well, let's just say the law has teeth, sharp teeth, and it's not just for the auditors. The companies are in the firing line too. Let's look at the consequences.
First up, remember that auditor who resigns and is supposed to file a statement explaining why? If they just walk away without doing it, they're looking at a fine that can go all the way up to 5 lakh rupees. That's a pretty steep price to pay for staying quiet.
But that's small potatoes compared to this. If an auditor fails in their duty to report a suspected fraud to the government, the potential fine skyrockets to as much as 25 lakh rupees. The message from the law here is crystal clear. When it comes to fraud, silence is not an option.
But let's take it a step further. What happens if the auditor isn't just negligent or quiet? What if they're actually in on it? What if they knowingly and willingly help a company cook the books?
This is where things get absolutely devastating for a crooked auditor. We're talking potential jail time, up to a year, massive fines again. They can be forced to refund every single rupee they were paid. On top of that, they're on the hook personally to pay for any damages their fraud caused. It's a complete financial and personal wipeout.
And look, the auditors aren't the only ones in the hot seat. The company and its top officers also face big fines and even potential jail time if they break these rules. Accountability is definitely a two-way street here.
And this right here, this quote from the Act, is so incredibly important. It basically says that if a partner at an audit firm commits fraud, the blame doesn't just stop with them. The entire firm is jointly and severally liable. In simple terms, that means the whole firm can go down with the ship. It ensures everyone at the firm has a very strong incentive to make sure no one crosses the line.
So when you pull it all together, the strict hiring process, the incredible powers, that absolute duty to report fraud, and these severe penalties, it kind of leaves us with one final thought. What is the auditor really? Are they just a referee, making sure everyone plays by the rules? Or are they more like a detective, actively hunting for clues of wrongdoing? The law, it seems, demands that they be both. And that right there is the crucial, delicate balance that our entire corporate world depends on.